Solve, discipuli et discipuli. Hey, Latin students, hope your summer is going well. I have been horrible at posting Latin videos over the summer. July, I've been really busy. I was on vacation for a while. I'm going to at least try to get through stage 6. So that'll be my goal. And if you complete stage 6, then I will do Latin with you when we start school in just a couple weeks. All right, let's jump right into it. This is a passage called Felix. And Felix is a new character in this stage. And I'll just start by going through and reading the Latin passage. You may want to read along with me. Then I think I'll go through and translate it line by line, focusing on the verbs. Remember the difference between the imperfect and the perfect. The imperfect has the be, and it means that someone was verbing, like was going. If it has the v in it, then it's going to be the perfect, which is just simple ed, like hopped. So that would just be something that's in the perfect, simple ed. If you have trouble with the perfect and imperfect, I posted 2 videos that pretty clearly explain the difference. All right, let's jump right in. Felix. Multi Pompiani in taberna vinum bibebant. Clemens tabernum intravit. Subito Clemens Felix clamavit. Clemens Felicem laete salutavit. Felix erat libertus. Clemens Felicem ad vilam invitavit. Clemens et Felix vilam intraverant. Clemens caecilium et metellum quaesivit. Caecilius in tablino scribebat. Metella in horto sedebat. Caecilius et metella ad atrium festina verant, et Felicem salutaverant. Postquam quintus atrium intravit, Felix juvenum spectavit. Libertus erat valde commotus. Paene lacrimabat, sed ridebat. Tum Clemens ad Collinum festinavit. Grumio in Collina dormiebat. Clemens coquam excitavit, et totum rem narravit. Coquus quod erat laetus canem optimum paravit. Okay, now let's focus on the translation. I'll start off by underlining the verbs in the first paragraph. So our first verb that we come across is the verb bibebant. Okay, and it has that be in it, so I know that it's going to be imperfect. Our next verb is intravit, and that one has a v, so I know it's going to be perfect. Then we have clamavit, which has a v, so I know that's going to be perfect. We have salutavit, which has a v, so I know that will be perfect. And then we have erat, which means was. Let's look at the first sentence. Multi Pompiani in taberna vinum bibebant. First thing I need to do is figure out what my verb means. So the verb bibebant means to drink. And I know it has the be in it, so it's were drinking. I know it's plural because of that, because of the nt at the end, bibebant. So they were drinking. I have to go back to the beginning of the sentence and figure out my subject. And when I look back at the beginning, I see that it's multi Pompiani. Many Pompeians were drinking. Now I have to figure out what they were drinking. So I look for the thing with the M, vinum. Many Pompeians were drinking wine. That's what vinum means, wine. And then I have the last part, in taberna. So many Pompeians were drinking wine in the inn. Next sentence. Clemens tabernum intravit. Pretty easy sentence. I know my verb is intravit, has the V, so it's just past tense. Intravit means entered. I try to look for my subject. I see Clemens is the subject, so Clemens entered. What did he enter? He entered the inn, the tabernum. Actually, sorry, tabernum is a shop. So he enters the inn or the shop. Next sentence. Subito Clemens Felix clamavit. Right, so my verb is clamavit. Has a V, so I know it's perfect. It's shouted. And then I try to look for who shouted. And I go back to the beginning of the sentence and I see Clemens. So Clemens shouted. Subito means suddenly. And then Felix tells me what he shouted. So this sentence means suddenly Clemens shouted, Felix. He recognizes him. He's in the tabernum and he says, oh, there's Felix. And he shouts out his name. Next sentence. Clemens Felicem laete salutavit. Our verb is salutavit, has a V, so I know it's perfect. It's greeted. I try to look for the subject. I see two people, Clemens and Felicem, that's Felix. I try to decide which one's the subject. I know that Felicem has an M on it, so that's not my subject. So my subject must be Clemens. So Clemens greeted. Who did he greet? Felicem, Felix. So Clemens greeted Felix. Laite, I look on the side. It's right over here. He greeted him happily. So Clemens greeted Felix happily. Last sentence. Felix erat libertus. This tells me something about Felix. Erat means was. Felix was a free man, an ex-slave, like it says over here on the side. Okay. All right, next paragraph. Let's go through and underline our verbs. So we have invitavit. In the next sentence, we have intraverunt. Oops, gotta move this over. I move this over a little bit so I can see it better. Okay, so we have intraverunt. In the next sentence, we have quaesivit. And then we have scribebat. The next sentence, we have sedebat. These are all of our verbs. The next sentence has an and, so it's going to have two verbs. We have festina verunt, and we have saluta verunt. Next sentence, we have intravit and spectavit. The next sentence, we have was again, erat. And then in the last sentence, we have two verbs, lacrimabat and ridebat. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through this second paragraph. Clemens Felicem ad vilam invitavit. My verb is invitavit. I just have to look on the side. Oops. Look on the side over here, and I see that it means invited. I try to look at who's doing the inviting, and it's Clemens because he doesn't have an M on his name. So it's Clemens invited. Who did he invite? Felicem, because Felicem has that M, shows me it's a direct object. So Clemens invited Felix ad vilam, to the house. Next sentence. Clemens et Felix vilam intraverunt. Our verb is intraverunt, has that V, so I know it's perfect. The NT tells me it's plural. It's more than one person. So it means they entered. I need to figure out who's the one who entered. At the beginning, I see two people mentioned, Clemens et Felix. So Clemens and Felix are the people who entered. And what did they enter? Vilam, the house. So if I put it all together, Claymanes and Felix entered the house. Next sentence. Claymanes caecilium et metellum quaesivit. Alright, our verb is quaesivit, and quaesivit has a V in it, so I know it's perfect, and it means to search for, okay, to look for something. I try to figure out what my subject is, who's the one doing the searching. I go to the beginning, and I see Claymanes. Claymanes searched for, and now I'm going to look for my two nouns with the M on it, so that those are my direct objects. So Claymanes searched for caecilium et metellum. So Claymanes searched for Caecilius and Metella. He probably wants to show them that, hey, I found Felix, someone that we all know. Next sentence. Caecilius in tablino scribebat. Our verb is scribebat, has the B on it, so I know that it's an imperfect. Someone was doing something. When I see scribebat, I always think of scribbling, and it means to write. I need to find my subject. So who was writing? I look back at the beginning, and that's Caecilius. So Caecilius was writing in tablino. Whoa, got to go all the way back to chapter 1 for that noun. And in tablino means, do you remember? The study. Yeah, all the way back from the very beginning of the book, the study. So Caecilius was writing in the study. Next sentence. Metella in horto sedebat. Our verb is sedebat, has that B, and so I know it means was verbing. It's imperfect. Sedebat means sits, so was sitting. I try to look for my subject. It's Metella at the beginning. So Metella was sitting. Oh, another one from the beginning of the book. In horto. Do you remember what that one means? Good. Garden. So Metella was sitting in the garden. Next one. Caecilius et Metella ad atrium festina verunt, et Felicem saluta verunt. Whew, long sentence. When I see a long sentence like this, I like to break it in half right here before the and. So let's do the first part first. Caecilius et Metella ad atrium festina verunt. Our verb is festina verunt, has the V in it and the NT, so I know it's a perfect, but I know it's more than one. Festina verunt means hurried. I'm going to look for my subject. I look back at the beginning, I'm looking for two or more people who hurried, and I do see that, Caecilius et Metella. So Caecilius and Metella hurried, and then we have one last part, ad atrium, and that's a place in the house. So Caecilius and Metella hurried to the atrium, or to that entry room at the front of a Roman house. Now comes the last half of the sentence. Et Felicem saluta verunt. If I look at saluta verunt, it's again also perfect, just like festina verunt was. It's plural because we're still talking about Caecilius and Metella. So Caecilius and Metella hurried to the atrium and they greeted Felix. Okay, so they hurried to the atrium and greeted Felix. Next sentence. Postquam quintus atrium intravit, Felix juvenem spectavit. This one has two verbs. Let's start with the first verb. We have intravit. We've seen that so many times. Hopefully you just know what it means. Because it has the V, it means entered. It's a perfect. I try to look for my subject, and the only subject I see is quintus. Postquam, we've seen that a lot. It means when or after. In this case, it probably means when. So when Quintus entered the atrium, comma, Felix juvenem spectavit. Our verb is spectavit, which has the V, so I know it's perfect. and it means to spot or see, and in this case it's past tense, so it means saw. I look for my subject, so who saw something? Felix. What did he see? Euenum, and that is the young man. So let's put the whole sentence together. When Quintus entered the atrium, comma, Felix spotted the young man. So he sees Quintus. Next sentence. Libertus erat valde commotus. Our verb is was. Libertus was at the beginning. It's a free man. So the free man was, what was he? Valde commotus. And that's on the side over here. And it means to be very moved, to get very emotional. So the free man was very moved. And well, what moved him? What got him all emotional? It's when he saw Quintus. Now, right now in the story, we don't know why he gets so emotional. But for some reason, when he sees Quintus, he gets very emotional. Last sentence in this paragraph. Paina lacrimabat, sed ridebat. We have two verbs. One is lacrimabat, and that has a B on it. So it means that someone was doing something. In this case, it means crying. And if I look on the side, the paina lacrimabat was almost in tears. And I'm going to continue with that same subject. It's probably still talking about Felix. So he was almost in tears, meaning Felix, sed ridebat, but he was laughing. So it's one of those times where you're crying and laughing. You're happy, but you're sad at the same time. All right, very last paragraph. Tum clemens ad colinam festinavit. Our verb here, it looks like I forgot to underline some of these verbs. So we have festinavit. We have, let me move this over. We have dormiebat, excitavit, naravit, erat, paravit. Okay. Tum clemens ad colinam festinavit. And this means our verb is festinavit, which means hurried. Has that V in it, so I know it's perfect. I look for my subject, clemens. Tum means then. Ad colinam is to the kitchen. So then clemens hurried to the kitchen. Grumio in colina dormiebat. Our verb is dormiebat. It has a B, so I know it's imperfect. Someone was sleeping. I look for my subject. It's grumio. And then I have a place, in colina. So grumio was sleeping in the kitchen. Next to last sentence. Clemens coquum excitavit et totum rem naravit. Here we have those two verbs. We have a compound sentence. There's and, so let's do the first part first. Our first verb is excitavit. That means on the side it says aroused or woke up. And I look for my subject. It's clemens. So clemens woke up. Who did he wake up? The coquum, the cook. So clemens woke up the cook, who I know is grumio. Et totum rem naravit. And totum rem, if you look on the side, it means the whole story. Our verb is naravit, which means to tell. It has a V in it, so I know it's perfect, so it's told. And totum rem is the whole story, so he told him the whole story. To put that all together, clemens woke up the cook and told him the whole story about Felix coming over. Quoquus quod erat litus, caenam optimam paravit. We have two verbs. The first one is was, and so I'm looking for the subject, so who or what was something. In this case, it's the cook. Kokwus. The cook, quod means because. The cook, because he was happy. And I know Lita means appear. If I forgot what litus means, I know that lite means happily. Litus means happy. So the cook, because he was happy. And our last verb is parawit, which means prepared. It's right there on the side. Caenam optimum, an excellent dinner. Okay, so we have Felix being recognized in the taberna by Clemens. Clemens is really happy. We know that Felix is a free man, and Clemens brings him back to the house. Everyone recognizes Felix. They're happy. Felix is really happy to see Quintus for some reason, and Gromio wakes up, and he's happy too, and so he makes a great dinner. And we'll have to wait until the next passage to know why everyone is so happy. All right, talk to you next time.